Welcome back to Access Houston on 97.9 The Box.
Good Sunday morning and welcome back to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth, back with the Access Houston Political Roundtable. Got another house full, and so I'm just going to let everybody introduce themselves. Starting with
Sam Blair on the air. Let's get it, y'all.
All right. My name is Joshua Butler, and I am.
It moves.
You got it. You got
There
it.
you go.
My name is Joshua Butler, and I'm running for United States Congress in Texas's 7th Congressional District. It stretches from Meyerland, West U, Braeswood, Bel Air, all the way out through the Energy Corridor, Cy-Fair, and Jersey Village, and Katy. And just happy to be here in the studio with all of you all, and hopefully we can get some good discussion going today.
Indeed.
Right. My name is Fran Watson, and I am a Democratic candidate for Texas State Senate in District 17, a 3-county district going from Harris, Fort Bend, and Brazoria County.
Indeed. Another Sam. A male Sam.
All right.
Hey, Sam.
I'm Samuel Daigle. I'm a general manager for the Model District Group and also Opulent Vision consulting firm. We help start up private practices, family clinics, things of that nature.
Indeed.
And I'm Steven Zorosco, aka Houston's problem child, poking my head out from the underground here on, Access Houston from All Real Radio, Raw Politics.
All right, so let's get into CD7. Sam Blair.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this one, you guys. City 7 specifically, this is going to be a historic race. For the first time ever, we're seeing in this district that is primarily white, a couple of minority candidates and some of the youngest candidates on the ballot. I'm really excited that we have Joshua Butler here today. So Joshua, I want to talk to you. As the demographic of CD7 is changing, how do you plan to combat that? Right now, what are the demographics, if you could go ahead and let everyone know?
So as you just mentioned, the demographics are changing, and it's one of the things that I looked at when I decided to step up and run in this particular race. What most people don't know about Congressional District 7 is that there has never been a black African-American candidate to ever run in CD7. I am the first. And I know how important it is to provide communities of color with somebody that looks like us, sounds like us, understands the issues that we're dealing with, that can relate to problems that exist within communities of color and inspire people to get them to the ballot box and know that somebody genuinely cares about real issues that we're dealing with every day beyond the politics. You talk about the changing demographics, and what you're looking at is right now you have about 30% Latino population that's in CD7, along with close to 10% of the African American population. So we need better representation that's broadly expressed. Right now, there's a 17-year incumbent by the name of John Culberson that's in this seat, and the unfortunate part about it is in the time he's been in office, and you can look at any picture or Facebook post or Twitter post or whatever, and you'll never really see a person of color that's in anything that he does or him going into those communities. So that's why I stepped up to make sure that we have broad representation. Yes, making sure that our majority Caucasian counterparts have representatives as well, but primarily ensuring that nobody gets forgotten about or left out in this community.
Got it. And just very quickly, could you talk about some things or some changes in legislation specifically? You talked about the 30% Hispanic population that lives in CD7. And while I'm very concerned about the black population, I'm also equally concerned about the brown community.
Right.
And right now they're facing a lot of huge things. They're facing issues with their schools. They're facing issues with DACA, the Dreamers.
Right.
So what kinds of things are you looking forward to changing in terms of legislation to help this community and be representative of this community should you be the chosen one?
Well, one of the biggest problems of our time right now is the discussion around immigration reform. And, we tend to get into linear discussions in terms of only talking about DACA Dreamers or talking about border security. But a congressional representative is supposed to make sure that we have a broadly stroked, comprehensive plan of action for how to resolve these very complex issues. And our undocumented community, our neighbors in the Latino community are dealing with the fear of not knowing what their future is going to look like. We have young people that are in and throughout our communities that don't deserve the scenarios they're facing right now of wondering, can they go to school? Can they go to the grocery store and not be targeted and discriminated against, and dealing with the prejudices that we're seeing throughout the community? So as a congressional representative, what we definitively need is a real discussion, a leader that's going to go to Washington. And mind you, I'd be a junior representative, so I know the influence will not be there immediately. But you have to be able to talk in a very confident way that we need comprehensive immigration reform. And that's everything from our border security to what happens with our DACA recipients to our visa program, and even more so the crossover issue of the private prison system, because that impacts communities of color all across the board.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
When it comes, do we know what the numbers are when it comes to how we're looking here in Harris County or in your district with ICE coming and swooping up brown people?
You know, I will say that may be a blind spot of mine. I don't know the specific percentage or number in that respect. I know it's an issue. Yeah, I mean, it is a definitive issue. And
so.
one thing I've always tried to do is tell people, if I don't know something, I don't know it, but I'll definitely find out. And that's just one particular area. I know our mayor has been working extraordinarily hard to ensure that people are not facing those scenarios, and our local Houston Police Department is not having to become customs and immigration agents to do the work that should be collaborated and better organized at the federal level.
Indeed. You listen to Access Houston. It's the Access Houston Political Roundtable. Got a roundtable full. Fran Watson, who is a Democratic candidate for Texas Senate District 17. What is your platform, ma'am?
So I am running on a people first platform, which simply means that everyone, regardless of look or circumstance, should have equal access to the opportunity to succeed in Texas. And I'm looking at that from three areas. As I just said earlier, this district is a 3-county district, and it's geographically and demographically diverse. So you have urban, rural, and suburban. But what we are seeing, the thread through all of this, is access to a quality public education system. You'll talk to mothers in Freeport and saying that their kids can't bring their books home because there's not enough resources. You're talking to folks in Fort Bend that are saying that now they've retired as a teacher, they're retired and they're losing $75 a month and having to put it towards health care. And so it's really looking at our Texas public education system as a whole, from the funding structure to how the resources are allocated and where that money's coming from, especially from our property tax dollars, from what is supposed to be given by the state, and how that funding stream has really decreased, and it decreases in certain times. And so, and what our priorities are, where are we putting our money? If we're putting our money on quote unquote border security instead of putting it in the classrooms, then we're going to see this problematic issue. Oh,
well, of course, it's all about the money.
It's all follow the money, right? Follow the money. And then secondly is our healthcare system. Two simple words to that is Medicaid expansion. Right now, because we're not accepting these billions of dollars, we still have this high uninsured rate in Texas. And we have folks that are getting their diagnostic tests at the emergency room, which puts a burden on Texans, which is actually just inhumane for folks, period, right? And who does that affect? Communities of color. Who does it affect? Working poor.
Can I underscore that point for a moment? When President Obama was trying to get the Affordable Health Care Act passed, and I would find myself in conversations with some folks, white folks, who were not with it, and I'm like, well, really, what difference does it make? Because we're going to end up paying either way.
Right.
If we do it this way, where we're paying every month, or if you don't, you got the penalty. Fine, I'd rather pay than know that I have some sort of coverage, versus if it doesn't and said person goes to the emergency room, we're still paying because they're taking it out of our tax dollars. So I didn't, that was one of my arguments. I was like,
and that money,
we end up paying either way.
Either way, and we're giving money away. We're saying, Texas, we're not going to take these federal dollars. Go ahead, Utah, you can have it. Go ahead, California, you go ahead and take it. When we could be taking care of Texans here. So that's problematic. And then finally, which I feel is important for the platform, is economic empowerment for all Texans. And that looks like a few things. It is raising the minimum wage for Texas families, because as we know, working, especially folks that are working in low wage jobs, are overrepresented women of color overrepresented. So we could actually be taking a huge step towards equal pay if we raise the minimum wage, if we have non-discrimination protections in place so that people can get a job, they can not be evicted because they're living their authentic life. And if we start talking about criminal justice reform in a way that shows that, one, you have folks that are sitting in jail. I know in Harris County they're taking steps with the PR bonds and to make sure that with bail reform, but what can we do as a state level? And that's one of the things when we talk about running. I'm running for District 17, but the work and the votes that happen on the floor affect the state as a whole.
Everybody.
And so I think ensuring that we have representation that's thinking about that.
I like that. You're listening to Access Houston. It's the Access Houston Political Roundtable. We had this past week, I really enjoyed watching America's teenagers act like adults more than the adults who are acting like teenagers with this whole Parkland, Florida shooting. And so the guy that's occupying the White House at the moment had I guess, what was it, an open forum, a Q&A, I don't know. Here, tell me your problems, we can see how to fix it, right? And one of the things that he suggested was that teachers be armed in school. Thoughts?
So, KG, I worked in education for 7 years, and of those 7 years, I had to buy food for my students. I had to find transportation for my students. I had to buy classroom materials for my students, and this isn't a mentoring program, right? And never once did I ever think that they would say, hey, let's go ahead and arm our teachers. We can't give them whiteboards. We can't give our students books. We can't put computers in the classrooms. We can't ensure that our kids have meals every day, but let's give them guns. Because that's the most important thing that they need right now. That's crazy, guys.
Yeah, it is. And when you look at the scenarios that we're facing right now, you have a lot of people that will say, well, you know, guns don't kill people. People kill people. And I think that is the dumbest explanation of what is going on right now, because we have 200 million guns in the United States of America. And the scenario of access to the type of weaponry that exists. I was actually just block walking earlier today and spoke with a Vietnam vet that talked about how assault weapons, machine guns, semi-automatic weapons were never meant to be in the general population.
Right.
They were meant for killing people in war. They were meant to wage war against other countries and other what we call foreign militias. So for the government to be sitting back doing nothing, a do-nothing Congress, a do-nothing government right now, the number one responsibility of the United States government is to protect its citizens, and yet they're failing to do that. It is not necessarily the teacher's job to protect the students. Like, there are measurements and things that can be put in place, ideas and things that can be worked upon in terms of a comprehensive gun reform, legislative piece. But you have the NRA and all of these legislative leaders, if we want to call them that, that are willing to sit by and watch our citizens die. And I sat the other day and thought about the fact that if Sandy Hook with 20 babies that didn't do it,
I knew that.
What's it going to take?
If nothing was going to be done when Sandy Hook happened,
right?
I knew that nothing was ever going to be done.
Right.
State level things were passed for and against it. I think 117 laws were passed for stricter gun control on the state level, and I think 70 laws were passed to weaken access to guns on the state level. But my main thing is, I'm not a politician. I am the voter. I'm the person. I am that. My main thing is, I heard teachers on CNN, and then I've seen on social media teachers say, well, once the response team comes, once the SWAT team, whoever is coming, once they come in, if a teacher has a firearm and they're in the line of fire, things are just going on. You don't know what's going on. Things are just going like this. How do the officers coming in to respond? How do they even know that are they wearing a vest? Are they thinking right now, let me put on a vest so the officer knows that, hey, I'm actually helping him defend? That doesn't make any sense. And also, not thinking on the political realm, just thinking as a human being. I know I have a temper. I could be mad. And when if I were a teacher, if I had students, hey, student might just push me to the edge one day. God forbid, but it very well could happen. You allowing teachers to have guns also puts the child in jeopardy as well on the teacher's end and also for the shooter that's coming in.
Yep.
More gun reform, that's what needs to happen. But arming teachers, I'm telling you, as a voter, as somebody that is watching what the person watching what the House and what the Senate and what the president who I help elect, if they actually want to arm teachers, first off, you're going to be out for this year, 2018 elections, 2020. Y'all are going to be out because parents are not going to be happy with that.
Yeah, and I think that the time is now. I mean, just looking at these teenagers organizing and voicing their opinion about what happened. I mean, they're hurting. Like it warmed my heart to see those young people drag Marco Rubio to hell and back.
Oh yeah.
The other day. I
Those
loved
kids are
that.
15, 16, 17 years old.
Right.
Yep.
Some 18. That means some are already ready to vote.
And they're
Yeah.
right, and they're
some
going to be
just
the
a
ones
couple
that's going to
years.
make the change.
But they're really not seeing that. They're acting like these are kids. Go ahead and let them have their little tantrum. Nothing's going to happen, but there is a true reperepercussion.
Oh yeah, they're all not going to be there.
taking.
They're all not going to be
Yeah.
there in the next 4 to 6 years.
They
Like you're
won't.
not going to be in office because these kids are going to. They're going to get you out of there because when you see it from their point, we have let them down time and again. You don't even care about my safety. I came here to watch you tell me to my face that you will continue to take money from the NRA, which is what they did. And so they're like, okay,
But hold
we got you. We got
I
you.
would like to say this. I would vote Democrat right now if I had to. That's because of the climate right now. But Democrats and Republicans should be held accountable on both sides for taking money from the NRA.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, all of them.
Absolutely.
But it's preached, the tone is set that it's Republicans, it's the right, it's conservatives. Yes, more of them are taking money from the NRA. Yes. More of them are taking much larger amounts. Yes. But it's on both sides. And really, both sides need to be called out, honestly. And Democrats need to take responsibility. I'm looking at Marco Rubio choke. I'm looking at him choke, but I need to see some Democrats choke when kids or whoever call them out on it. I need to see them choking because they have taken money from them for years. They're in everyone's pocket. They're in everyone's pocket.
The president the most. The president the absolute most. That's why he suggested that asinine idea.
Right.
I mean,
when it comes to Democrats, they have a lot to answer to. That not just has to do with the NRA. They have to answer to the healthcare lobby as far as the health insurance. They have the pharmaceutical lobby. They have to answer to AIPAC, which is the Israel lobby. They have to answer for a lot of other lobbies. This is the lobby that right now is getting everybody's attention because it's the mass shootings that keep occurring. This is the culmination of social justice organizing and social media that's been active for the past 5 years because Sandy Hook happened about 6 years ago. And at that time, there was really no real organizing happening because Ferguson hadn't happened until about another year after Sandy Hook. And that's when you had the surge in social justice organizing. A lot of political campaigns got behind social justice campaigns, including here in Houston. And then it created this real interest in surge and, movement organizing. And that's what you're starting to see because these children, when Barack Obama were elected, were probably 8, 9 years old or younger. So all they have known and seen is a toxic political system. So what they have been doing is educating themselves on what can be done. Like, for example, the Parkland student has been getting the most attention, Emma Gonzalez. She is a bisexual student who is a president of the Straight Student Alliance with LGBT. So she's been getting ready for this kinds of discourse and conversations, and she's seizing the moment because it happened. Now, as far as arming teachers, that's not going to happen because we already know in the prison, the school to prison pipeline is real. You have teachers that are fighting students. You have teachers that are, slamming students. That's not going to happen. That's just a distraction. As far as like sensible gun reform, it is needed, but we do have to peel back the layers that have to do with these assault rifles because I don't see, and this is my opinion that some people deem controversial, there's no realistic way of removing assault rifles after the right-wing extremist groups have been stocking up over the past 20 years. Because what they have been doing, and we cannot skip over the fact that the Parkland shooter was a heavy right-wing extremist and white supremacist. These ties have came up You know, the Republic of Florida. This is a white nationalist group that trained them how to shoot. You know, so you have to understand that we have our own Al Qaeda, our own Taliban when it comes to right-wing extremism and white supremacy, and they are embedded in the Republican Party. So that's why they have to take a lot more heat and responsibility for guns and gun culture in this country. And the Democrats, well, they're just kind of like the enablers because they, you know, see no evil, hear no evil when it comes to the gunshots.
So what do you think of the wave that is beginning to start with, you know, banks that were affiliated with the NRA pulling out? You know, you got a lot of car rental places. I forgot who all I saw today, but people are, you know, slowly starting to see the trickle. And not only that, I believe I saw a headline that Robert Mueller, who is the special counsel who's heading the Russia investigation, is also looking into the NRA through money laundering, through funds. Like, this whole thing is all of that. Put it on, get it on the microphone.
Macy's pulled out when the Trump sex tape. I mean, not sex tape. Lord, when the Access
there is
Hollywood
a tape. There's a P tape. Yes.
When the Hollywood tape came out. Rewind. When Trump made his statement about some Mexicans being rapists and all that stuff, Macy's stopped carrying his stuff. Other people stopped carrying his line. That really didn't do anything. He still got in office. Something has to change on the book. Something has to change with the law, because that's the NRA people. People are going to start pulling away from them. That's not enough, and that's not really going to affect them. They have billions. Like who was it that said Florida? The governor got the manufacturers to come into Florida and, you know, start manufacturing the guns. They got money behind them. They start losing, you know, all these endorsements, stuff like that. They still got billions.
You know what? I'll tell you what to shut it down or get it to fall back. Thank you. Get out of my head. If black gun owners started applying and became members of the NRA, they would shut it down. So
there would be a flag.
It's kind of like the meme you hear going around right now. If blacks all purchase AR-15s, all of a sudden they would be banned.
I mean, remember that awful commercial?
I see Problem Child over here. Earlier this week, you said something in opposition to that, and I never did get why. So explain why. You said, don't go out there and buy the AR-15s. Don't go out there.
No. I said don't ban. Like, say no to the ban.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay,
don't say no to the ban because this is the thing. You know, the Second Amendment was ratified to preserve slavery, and every single law that has been passed as far as gun control was a response to when black and brown people were trying to get guns. You know, so we understand that, you know, after 10 years since Barack Obama was elected president, you have right-wing extremist growth. Exponentially, you have white supremacist infiltration into.
And that's when the NRA was coming up on the rise during the Obama years, slowly ticking up.
Because they attached themselves politically to this. So when we have now everybody scared of assault rifles because of these horrible shootings and want to walk away from it, ask these white supremacy right-wing extremists if they're going to hand their guns over. At least their assault rifles. They're not going to hand these things.
No, because that was their whole thing during the Obama years. Just going to take away your gun.
Right, exactly. So, gun education is very important. You know, people need to learn how to carry and shoot and load and clean and store a gun, assault rifles, because unfortunately, this is a Pandora's box you've opened. You can't put it back in. We have the United States of America. It's not Australia. It's not Japan, because it's not one homogenous group. This is the most one of the most diverse countries in the world when it comes to race and religion and sex and gender and these liberties and freedoms. And then unfortunately, we have a dying ideology, which is right wing and conservative, which is usually old, white, and male. They want to hold on to what they think is their version of this country, and they're going to only hold on to it the only way that they understand, which is the way that the American Revolution was and the way the Civil War was, which is through guns and violence.
And the foundation of this of this country, guys. That is our time this week. So we
flies by.
It's a fast 24. It's a fast
Sure
24.
is.
It's a fast 24.
I'm like, I didn't know it was coming. I'm like, what?
Yeah, we can't stay on the air forever. But I really appreciate you all coming through. Sam Blair, Joshua Butler, Fran Watson, Samuel Stevens. Thank you all, and everybody out there that's listening. I appreciate it. You guys be back when I ask.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. And thank you for listening to Access Houston.